Alright, welcome to my review of the Warlock Blackpowder's Buccaners. Just gonna skim over the fighting cards here first, and then look at the faction cards, and then go about building a deck for him. So, Warlock is basically Rothgorn. Not 2.0, as many would have you say, but he rather 0.7 or something. I think it's worse in most ways. His ranged attack starts 1 Fury more accurate, but you can only do it once unless you invest in cards, and you don't have any of the push shenanigans that Rothgorn has. So it's just worse, straight out. And his second attack, I would venture to say it's worse as well. It starts out at 2 range 2 hammers, 3 damage. Same as Rothgorn, but Rothgorn has the only 1 range. But that's actually better, because it's so much easier to gain accuracy with 1 range attacks than it is with 2 range attacks. Back in the Beastgrave era we had Strength of Terror to boost accuracy for 2 range attacks, but now we don't really have anything. Most of the accuracy cards is for range 1, like Savage Visage, Savage Soldier, and Augmented Limbs is only for range 1 as well, so you are kind of shit out of luck there. And when inspired, he does not gain the extra shield that Rothgorn does, and he does not gain the extra accuracy for his melee attack that Rothgorn does as well. He gains 1 extra sword or fury on his ranged attack, but as I said, it's only useful if you discard swag, and that's not really easy to do unless you invest heavily in it. So I would say in every way, shape and form he is the lesser cousin of Rothgorn. Feel free to disagree. And his minions, they have some merit to them, especially Manch and Shriek. They gain 3 dodge when inspired, and Snag Grievous on Manch, and Grievous and Stagger on the Parrot. KG and Peg start at 2 Fury, so pretty inaccurate, and only 1 dodge. So 2 Wound Fighters, all of these 4. And pretty fragile, the Noblars here. And they inspire by making a light finger reaction, so they have to destroy an upgrade by making a successful attack action. Not something you do straight away in the game. And Warlock needs to discard his second or subsequent swag counter. So it's a bit of a weird team that actually requires you to invest in your own cards to inspire at all. I can't really recall any warband who has a similar condition. And so let's look at the objectives. So first up, we only have 4 objectives that are search objectives, so that's pretty measly. Comparing with Rothgorn again, he has 7, and the only warband who actually can use 7 searches when playing rivals. So I mean, he has certainly not been dealt the upper hand versus his ogre cousin here. So first up, broadside scores immediately after your leader's second or subsequent Guanderbuss attack action in the same phase, not in the game, in the same phase, which you really need to invest cards to do, and even if you do, you might not get them up. So pretty hard. Brutal Blaying needs to be range 1 or range 2 attack action. You need to take them out of action. You need to have a supporting fight when you do so. So that's slightly better. It's certainly gonna happen, but it's not something that happens straight away often. Gold Diggers is one of the solid objective cards here. You need to have 2 or more friendly effects on feature tokens, and 1 of those must be in enemy territory. So basically swift capture, and you score it after a power step, so you can actually push on via cards and score it directly, basically. So that's pretty solid. Man-Eater is the leader, taking someone out without wound counters, and yeah, it's gonna be really tough versus elite warbands. So yeah, right. So all the 8 end phases here: Aspiring Tyrant, leader is on a feature token in enemy territory, or 1 or more enemy leaders out of action. Pretty doable. That's totally fine. Yes, 1 glory though. Bold Tails scores in an end phase if 3 or more friendly fighters are on feature tokens that are not in your territory. That's pretty hard. Or 3 or more enemy fighters are out of action. That's, I mean, it's 2 glory, but it's very hard condition, I would say. 3 fighters on feature tokens not in your territory. So all of those 3 fighters need to be on feature tokens in no man's land or in enemy territory. Or you need to have killed 3 enemies. No, I wouldn't take that one. Brush Braggart, leader within 2 hexes of 2 more enemy fighters. Pretty doable. Might force your hand, but certainly not unthinkable. And Isonote Price scores an end phase if you have 3 or more swag counters, so it's gonna be hard. If you have 6, you can gain 1 additional glory, 2 or 3 glory. Loaded with Booty scores an end phase if you have 2 or more swag counters and 2 or more friendly fights or on feature tokens. That's not in your enemy, not in your territory. Doable, 2 or more friendly fighters, certainly more doable than the last one. 2 or more swag is not impossible if you invest cards in it. 2 glory might be worthwhile, I guess. Smash and Grab. It's a hybrid. 1 or more of your opponent's upgrade card was broken, so basically an illusion card or something from the Lightfinger reaction. Or 1 more enemy fighters each have 2 more upgrades out of action. You can't really guarantee the second condition. And it's not certain that they actually get an upgrade out if it's the first phase. Might be hard. Not really worth it for 1 glory, I think. Tall Tail, 1 or more enemy fights with a wound characteristic of 5 or more out of action. That's certainly not something that you can guarantee. Or 1 or more friendly fighters each have 3 or more upgrades. Just 1 glory for 3 upgrades. Lots of teams have similar cards, but I mean, Mayaris and Ripas have same thing for 2 glory, so yeah. That's what I would need to take this one. So, moving on to the Gambit, spin there, play this after an enemy fights charge action, your leader makes 1 move action. After the move action, your leader must be adjacent to that enemy fighter. So basically counter charge, but you get a move token, which might not be what you want. Maybe a bit of a trap card. Certainly not super crappy, but I would include counter charge and Brave Companion and call it quits. Done that. Play this after an adjacent fighter's failed attack action that targeted your leader. Gain 1 swag counter. Pretty decent card if it wasn't for the adjacent part. Most of the time when you have a big brute and lots of small guys, your opponents will just try to kill off the plebs before they actually care about the leader. So not really a great way to guarantee swags. Flurry of Claws is to make an free attack action with a friendly companion. Yeah, well, they need to be adjacent because the companions only have range 1 attack actions. But out of sequence attacks are fine, I guess. Gold Rush, push 2 friendly fighters except your leader. Up to 2 hexes towards the feature token closest to them and in enemy territory. Kind of limited in how you push, but push 2 fighters potentially 2 hexes is good, but be careful about your positioning, I guess. There might be better push cards. Grand Theft, first range 1 attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation as a snare, gain 1 swag counters after resolving that attack. So if you want to invest in the swag department, this is a card that's solid because you don't need to succeed on the attack to get the swag. And snare is just icing on the cake. Hasty Shot, discard 1 power card. When you do, your leader makes 1 Grundabus attack action with -1 dice. To discard a power card just to make a second attack with -1 dice is simply to score broadside. Never do it otherwise. If you don't include broadside, don't take that card. And yeah, I wouldn't take this combo anyway, but yeah, that's the only reason to do that. Makeshift Munitions, in the next activation your leader's Grundabus attack action has -1 damage and does not have the ammo ability. So you probably want to take both of those if you want to take broadside, but I wouldn't take broadside. Reckless Raid, +1 dice to friendly fighters range 1 attack actions and -1 defense from friendly fighters to a minimum 1. So I have several fighters who have more than one defense dice. I'm not sure we want to be doing this just to get +1 dice to range 1 attack actions. Or just to get, I mean, it's pretty good, but yeah. Possibly, if you want to invest in a Mansion Shriek, you can kind of vault from those two fighters, I guess. Pretty good. So upgrades Cash Compass of this fighter's activation. Push this fighter up to 2 hexes towards the nearest feature token. So it's an upgrade that lets you do a reaction to push 2 hexes towards the nearest feature token. So you don't need to end up on a feature token. Just push. That's pretty good, but it's only for the minions. At the end of the action phase, if this fighter is on a feature token that's not in your territory, gain 1 swag counter when this fighter is inspired. Yeah, inspiring the minions isn't that big of a deal. And yeah, I mean, my spontaneous feeling about this card is I wouldn't include it, but I might be wrong. Legendary Looter, this is really weird. You give yourself a charge token to give another fighter an upgrade, and you need to discard a swag counter as well, so counterintuitive in building swag. I wouldn't take this card. Liberated Map, action, if this fighter's an edge hex and has no move tokens, place this fighter in an empty edge hex and give this fighter 1 move token. So basically like a Beast Trail, but as an action and an upgrade. At the end of the action phase, if this fighter is on a feature token that's not in your territory, gain 1 swag counter and this fighter inspired. No. More Powder is an upgrade that lets you do a reaction after a power step to gain +1 range on your ground boss attack action, but you get -1 dice. That's not good. Here's another upgrade that lets you do a reaction. More Shot. Uses after this fighter's ground boss attack action. When you do the following twice: scatter 1 from the target's hex, then deal 1 damage to any fighter in the end hex that has not already been dealt damage by this reaction in this step. No. Pointy Bits is really crappy. If you give it to a minion, they get Grievous on their range 1 attack action. And I mean, only one of the minions have range 1 attack actions, so that's not really good. And the other part is if this is given to Blackpowder, he can get -1 dice on his ground bus attack to get Cleave. I mean, Cleave is always worse than dice, so no. Scavenged Shot. While this fighter is on a feature token that is not in your territory, you can ignore the ammo ability on this fighter's ground bus attack action. After this fighter make a ground bus attack action, if you ignore the ammo ability, deal 1 damage to this fighter. So, yeah, you take a damage by making a free ground bus attack. Free, but without the ammo ability, but that doesn't really get you inspired. So, yeah, no. Thieving Grapple, reaction of this fight. So lots of upgrades that let you do reactions, but none of them are really good. So this is kind of like the light-fingered stuff. Of this fighter's move action, if they move through 1 or more enemy fighters during that action, roll 1 attack dice. So even if you move through 3 of them, you can only still roll 1 dice, and you need to roll hammer to break an upgrade. No, that's super crappy. Low odds of occurring, and no. I mean, I'm a bit saddened by the lack of quality in the upgrade department here. Tiny Braggart, do not spend any so it's an illusion upgrade. I don't need to read all that stuff, but you get +1 damage to range 1 attack actions, plus move, plus defense, but it only works on Pegs, and he's the range 1 attack action guy. So if he's inspired, he can potentially have 3 dodge, but that's probably not going to happen. +1 damage. I mean, the other stuff is not that great. I wouldn't take that card. It's limited to 1 fighter as well. So I'm going to move on to my deck building now. So, looking at this warband, I don't really think you need to inspire Gorlock. The only thing that happens is you gain 1 dice on your Grundabus, but you can't really make that many shots anyway. And you don't get any accuracy on his Great Cutlass. You get 1 extra move. You stay on 1 shield. I mean, compared to Rothgorn, gets 2 shields and the ability to push 2 with his raised 3 attack action. And Rothgorn also gains a 3rd hammer in the melee attack, so he's just better. So this guy you don't really need to inspire. You can just stay on uninspired and do the Great Cutlass and dance around with a soundless step. Keiichi, 2 swords, 1 damage. Same with pegs. The light finger reaction is a bit meh. It's not gonna happen that many times during game. I think Mange and Shriek is the takeaway from this warband. And they might actually do a lot of the heavy lifting here with the 3 swords Grievous attack and being much more tanky than their nobler counterparts. And they have interesting reactions that you can push. So Mange can push when the Nobler moves, and Shriek can push when Gorlock moves, and stuff like that. So let's move on to my deck building here. So sadly I didn't include many of the faction cards here because they were not really good, to be honest. So we have 4 fighters with 2 wounds. 2 of them start with 1 dodge, and the other 2 with 2 dodge, which isn't crazy strong either, but they will die, that's for sure. So everything to prove seems like a solid first pick here. Your opponent will get primacy here. Impending Doom should be doable. I'll include some extra push cards to make sure I can pile up on the enemy. And Wing Death as well. I included 2 extra move cards to make sure this happened. And I also have the Grundabus and the Grapnel attack. So yeah, should be doable. Gold Diggers is one of the only cards I included from the warband itself. It's the one with 2 more friendly fights on feature tokens, and 1 should be in enemy territory. So that's pretty solid. The more demeanor is a Destruction Grand Alliance cards for having double supports. 2 supporting fighters. And I've included Swarming Strike to help me there. As well as the push cards, obviously. Contest of Equals I just include in every deck. Strong card. After a failed attack with equal amounts of successes on both sides. Crits counting just as 1. So, strong card. End phase, I went with clean kills. I mean, Gorlock has decent damage output, and with a Grievous attack of Mange and Shriek, killing off a couple of fighters, or 3 of them, should not be impossible. Come the 2nd or 3rd phase. Dominant position, decent pick for any warband of this size. And since I've also invested a lot of push cards, should be doable. Intimidating display, I have a fighter with 6 wounds, so that should not be impossible. Underdog, as I said, I play everything to prove here. And with 4 fights on 2 wounds, Underdog should not be very hard to get in one of the phases at least. Treasure Hungry is one of the own cards I included. You just need 2 fighters on feature tokens. Super solid card, you don't need to be in a special zone, just on any feature token, including the Gloom Hexes. And last up we have Demolished Opposition, so I hope that there should not be more than 1 opponent left in the 3rd end phase. And if not, maybe they have come to me and don't stay behind. So this should be scoreable, maybe not as easy as the other ones, but I think you should have 1 objective that can give a bit more glory to raise the roof here. So, the Gambits, Heated Instinct, I've included several Core cards to help me get this push up to 2 hexes. Always a strong card to include. Same with Hypnotic Buzz, kind of an auto pick for most warbands. Memorance Wings and Outrun Death is to score Wing Death. And Outrun Death also helps a bit with the Everything to Prove if you want to score it the other way. Strength through a Swarm is just to capitalize on getting lots of support with this deck. +1 dice if I have 1 support, and also +1 damage if I have 2 or more supports. Swarming Strike helped me getting extra support, so the attack counts as extra supporting fighter. So help me score the more the meaner basically. Symbiote's Call. So also help me push on to feature tokens to score Treasure Hunger and Gold Diggers. And possibly also shut down Counter Spoils if my opponent want to be playing that, so a bit of a counter meta pick as well. Counter Charge and Brave Companion is to get to Impending Doom and to more the meter. And Mirror Move, just the last push card, which have the potential to be more than 1 push as well. If the opponent pushes more than 1, you can push more than 1 as well. So, upgrades: Silent Armor, Silent Helm, Silent Ring and Silent Sword to get some bonuses of having several Silent Relics, as well as getting more core cards out. And a bit of a card draw there with Silent Ring, defensive bonus with the Silent Helm, might help the leader a bit because it's only 1 shield. I mean, I might go with the Silent Helm on the Monkey, but on the 3 dodge side could be really tanky. Silent Armor gives you an extra wound if you have 2 relics. Sound a Step, I think it's a solid pick if you have a fighter with like 2 range like the leader here. You can dance around with Sound a Step and get lots of eligible attacks. Basically poor man strapper. So Glory Seeker works for the range 3 attack of KG and the Grandabus, and always a good pick regardless, I guess. Great Fortitude. Now that Scavenged Armor is restricted, I think Great Fortitude will see more play. I mean, it was always included in a lot of decks, and you can't really go wrong with it. Great Strength as well, gets Gordok up to 1-shot territory of most fighters, or might buff Manch and Shriek to potentially do 3 damage with a Grievous attack. Ephemeral Fortitude, it's a new card from the Illusional Might pack. And this fighter has a wounds characteristic of 4 in round 1 and 2, and a wound characteristic of 2 in round 2. So that's a +2 fortitude for these 4 fighters, KG, Pegs, Manch and Shriek. And then in the 3rd round they go back to 2 wounds, so they just go back to where they started. So it's not really a big side effect of it there. Might kill them with with their wounds toppling over when they go back to 2 wounds, but yeah, have to live with that. Unfazed is mainly for Gordok. He's a brawler, so the second condition applies here: +1 defense while 1 or more enemy fighters are adjacent to this fighter is dead, if this fighter is a brawler. So it might help his not inspired side going to 2 shields a bit here, and if you stack it with Silent Helm and Silent Armor, it might make him a bit more tanky. Because even if he's 6 wounds, just 1 shield, he will go down very quickly if they start targeting him. So this will hopefully help me a bit there. So that's the deck. What did you think? Have you played them? How would you have built them? So yeah, I'm a bit disappointed, to be honest, that their own deck isn't stronger than this, and they should definitely have gotten 5 searches, and their upgrades was really, really crappy. I mean, 4 or 5 upgrades that let you do reactions that aren't that great. I think they could have been constructed much more potent. So, but I digress. So I will try them out in the critical focus arena, and let's see how they fare. So watch out for that game. And without further ado, take care.